It's not that important if you have violence in there or not, it's much more important how you handle it in your game. Hi guys, and welcome back to another GameDev Answers video. My name still is Marcus and I'm a solo game developer currently working on my game Raidborn, which is a first-person sandbox action RPG. Check out my other videos to find out more about it if you're interested in that kind of games. But let's continue with the actual topic of this video, which is: do developers have the responsibility for having morality in their games and having messages in their games and ultimately making the world a better place? Because nowadays a lot of games really have a very large fan base and games reach millions and millions of people. And I think, other than movies and books and all the other mediums there are, I think games also are very powerful, as explained in one of my older videos where I talked about how games can change the world. You can check it out, I will link it in the description, maybe I forget it, I don't exactly know at the moment. Another thing is that games are firstly for entertainment purpose and not so much art. So I don't think that games have the same responsibility as books or movies have, which are very old already and which are much more artful. However, I think this is not really due to the medium, so I don't think that games can't be art. The thing is more, games are mostly created for entertainment purposes these days. And although it's a little bit grotesque, violence is entertaining, and it's not like since there are games, it's entertaining for quite a long time. I mean, look at the ancient Rome, there were the gladiator battles or fights, and that was entertainment as well. So violence, for some weird reason I can't tell you, is entertaining for us. Find it bad, find it good, but it is there. And I think, hey, if you have violence in a game, isn't that the best form of that kind of entertainment, instead of like slaying each other down in a gladiator arena? However, I think implementing violence, sex and other adult topics to a game just for the purpose of selling it better, that is of course not really a good thing. And as mentioned before, lots of people are playing games, and regarding that aspect you kind of have at least a certain amount of responsibility of what you're showing to your customer and what message you deliver, because I think that's much more important than what you display. It's not that important if you have violence in there or not, it's much more important how you handle it in your game and what the ultimate message is you give to the people. And also very important, which most people forget, is how clear is that message. Because it's very easy for a human being to take a message which is not very clear and just turn it around so that it makes sense for them. For example, you want to criticize violence, but somebody uses the game and plays it and thinks, oh, violence is super cool, I can kill everybody. You know what I mean? So that is a thing you should also consider if you're creating a game and want to make a message. Make it clear, not completely artistic and hidden and nobody understands it. I think that's very important. And I mean, we could do the discussion here, what games do to people, but I don't want to do this because it's a whole other topic. But I personally think that there's nothing bad in displaying real life things like violence, killing, sex, etc. if you show them in the right context with believable characters and so on and so forth. So I think the more you have those topics, the more you have to take care on the detail, and you have to be more serious if you put more violence into the game. Especially we're talking about real violence, which is really shocking, because we have violence. There are some games like Serious Sam. I mean, yes, it's kind of violent, but it's very, it's very abstract. So that's also a thing. But if you create something realistic and brutal, then it should most of the time also be make sense, and have believable characters and be in the right context. But violence itself, I think, is not really that much of a problem. But if you have all that adult topics like murder, greed, sex, etc. So if you have violence and all these other topics combined with, bad human behavior or bad human emotions like greed and stuff like that, then it's especially important. I think a game alone who has only violence and nothing else, that's not that bad. It's getting bad if somebody's killing somebody, if he is just greedy, or all that kind of bad emotions that are going on. And I think what's very important here to point out as well is that if the shown material in games does have an effect on the player or not, in the end depends on the player's ability to differentiate between real life and games. So I think that is a very important ability, and I personally can say for myself that yes, I have this ability because I play games for quite a lot of time, and I have seriously no problem with any kind of game and violence in there. So I personally don't really care about it, horror, sex, rape, whatever it is. I mean, it's just a game. And once you realize that when you press the power button of your PC or like the quit button of the game, it's over. Nobody has been hurt, and it was just a virtual displaying of something. It has nothing to do with real world. It will have no consequences in real world. And once you realize that, there is nothing to it, it doesn't care, it doesn't matter. And I think that's a very important point here. But let's come back to this morality topic a little bit. We drifted away to violence and stuff like that. So do developers have the responsibility to, deliver a message? I think not all games should actually try to have a message, because as mentioned in the beginning of the video, there are games just for entertaining purpose, and that's just fine. I think there's nothing bad to it. I mean, we have Transformer movies, they are for entertainment, they're meant to be violent, explosions and everything, they're cool, and I think nobody who goes out of a Transformer movie wants to kill, I don't know, his car now because I thinks that is a Decepticon or something like that. I mean, that's totally fine, there's no problem with it whatsoever. But that doesn't mean that there shouldn't be games who have a message and who have morality in their games and teach you something. However, I think it's not very cool if this game tries to force that message. I think it needs to be subtle, and it needs to more make the player think about a certain topic and not so much tell him, hey, that is right and you should believe that and you are bad if you're doing that and this. That is, I think, a not very good way to build in morality into your games. Actually, I also wanted to implement at least subtle message to my game, and I have this because, in my game Raidborn, which I'm currently developing, I implemented a system so you can, from time to time, make decisions. And those decisions will have consequences, and also ultimately this game has two endings. And there I try to give you a message, or to give out the message, because I just think that's a cool thing. And it's nothing like, oh, you're bad because you did that. It's more, the things you do will result in something, and that is what I want. However, my game is not a Fallout New Vegas or a Fallout in general. But I have to say, Fallout 4 and, yeah, well, let's not talk about Fallout 4 where it doesn't have that much consequences. But let's talk a little bit about Fallout New Vegas, because I think there was relatively good. I mean, if you were evil, the world reacted with being evil in return. If you're being brutal, you got brutal actions in return. And I think that is something which is a good message, actually, and I try to implement something like that, at least very subtle to my game, because ultimately my game is mostly for entertainment reasons and for being relaxing. I want that people feel good and just can enjoy being in that game world. So, once again, that was it for the video. Tell me your thoughts on the topic, tell me what you think about the video, tell me what are your thoughts on violence in games. Do you also have the ability to differentiate between real life and games, or do you think, oh my god, that game is so violent, how can people play that? just share it with me. I would like to have a nice chat in the comments down below. And as always, have a wonderful day, guys. See you next time and stay cool.